he was talking about AI, and he said AI is an evolved form of humanity. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm an evolutionary biologist. You can't tell me like, a machine is an evolved form of humanity. That's not how evolution works. But then like that, I just was sitting with that for a while. I saw the whole presentation. It was fascinating. I took a bunch of notes and I talked with him afterwards, and I went home and I was thinking about this. And I was trying to sort of refute his argument in my mind as a scientist, as an evolutionary biologist. And I was realizing like, okay, where does AI come from? Well, it was created by humans, and as we know, it has many of our human traits, the good ones and a lot of the bad ones too. In other words, like we created it in our image, right? It is basically almost sort of like our offspring, right? We've created this thing. Now, it's not independent of us completely, not currently, but at some point it could be. And if it were, if we've created a thing that is like us, different, but like us, and it's made in our image, isn't that basically what reproduction is? And it's, basically like it is the next generation of humans. And so that really sort of opened my mind up to thinking about maybe we have too narrow a definition of evolution, and maybe we have too narrow a definition of humanity. And I say we, I'm speaking as a biologist, as a scientist. It made me really kind of want to open my mind up to thinking about this in a broader way. So yeah, I think I'm still wrestling with that idea. I don't claim to be someone who can answer all of these fundamental questions, but I think they're really important. I think they're fascinating.
So with that, we're assuming that the AI functions independently at some point, that it is autonomous, that it has its own sort of vision for itself, and that's when it becomes its own thing?
I mean, I think if it got to that point, then then you could start to have a discussion about, is it a new species of human, basically? Okay. Is this a new form of humanity? I think as long as it's fully dependent on us and not separate from us, I think it's harder to make that argument. I suppose you could, but I would be less convinced by that argument if it's as it is currently, which, basically we can still turn off the switch and shut down the AI, right? And so, if that's no longer the case anymore, if it becomes fully autonomous and fully independent, there's certainly a stronger case that it is its own life form at that point.